The panel I'm going to be introducing is all about seeing, envisioning the next wave, the next phase. Things that are going to be changing very soon. Not just new technologies. There's going to be a speaker on AI and how that is going to impact the field of radical longevity, but also seeing the change in the public mood, change in the whole culture. The argument for longer lives, of course, it's always been humanitarian. Now it's increasingly a financial argument. If people want to make money by investing, there are opportunities. But more than that, politicians soon are going to wake up to the remarkable fact that if they want to save their whole countries large amounts of money, the best thing to do is invest in longevity, regenerative medicine. Otherwise, so many of the healthcare budgets around the world are going to be bankrupt by the costs of looking after chronically ill people. Far better to have a stitch in time that saves 9. So the speakers I'm going to introduce are going to look at the economics, that longevity dividend argument. They're going to look at some of the technology, AI. They're going to look at the transformation of education in anticipation of the opportunities for not just an extended life, but a radically enhanced life, a radically expanded life. The first of the 3 speakers, José Luis Cordeiro. He is an engineer by training from MIT. He is an economist. He has given advice to many governments around the world on the future of their economies. He is also a transhumanist. He is the vice chair of Humanity Plus. As a futurist, he is involved in the Millennium Project of futurists planning out the evolution of economies and the evolution of society. And he is also, as you know, a revolutionary. So please welcome José Luis Cordeiro.
Yes, viva la revolución! We are beginning a revolution here, and we have to keep on moving forward. I am actually very happy also to announce that my book has come out with my co-author, David. Both of us are the authors of this book that I want to talk about because it has been incredibly successful in Spanish. Right now we are working on a Portuguese edition, and then Korean, English, and Russian. If you speak Twitter, here you can have the David Good too, or me, Cordeiro. And there is a website with the book in Spanish, and soon it will be also in English and Portuguese and Korean, as I mentioned. I am so proud to say that the book made it to #1 in health in Spain during the launch of the book. Actually, not only #1, it was #1 and #5. How could it be #1 and #5? Because it was #1 in paper and #5 on Kindle. Really incredible. And why this? Because immortality has been the dream of humanity from the very beginning. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the very first book in human history, written almost 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia with the cuneiform characters, people wanted to be immortal. The Egyptians wanted to be immortal. The Chinese wanted to be immortal. In the Americas, they were looking for the fountain of youth, eternal youth. So this has been the biggest, oldest dream of humanity, but we did not have the technology until today. Today we have the technology, and we are developing this in the next 10 years, 20 years. However, as the famous German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said, all truth goes through 3 stages. #1, first it is ridiculed. Like some of us are being ridiculed now because people don't see what is going to happen. Second stage, it is violently opposed. And we are getting also some opposition. But finally, and soon, in 2 decades, this will be accepted as self-evident. We have to work so that people realize what we are going to do, how the world will change. My colleagues, my friends, Ray Kurzweil talks about the technological singularity, and Aubrey de Grey also and other friends talk about the methuselarity. And I also created one word called the energularity, the energy singularity, but that is different. This is about solar energy, renewable energy, but this is something we will also see in the next 20 years. I lead the Millennium Project that began as the futuristic part of the United Nations University, and now we are a global think tank independently, and we look at the trends of the future, the 15 global challenges, and we publish every year a book about the state of the future. And we are already beginning to talk about radical life extension. This is distributed to all the diplomats in the world so that they know what is coming, even including probable immortality, as I like to say, or immortality, non-death. I wrote a book with my colleagues from the Millennium Project about Latin America in the year 2030, where we talk in one scenario about physical immortality by the year 2030. I presented this book in different places, like in the World Economic Forum, that some of you probably know, Davos, Switzerland, and I met with very interesting people like Nobel laureate Mario Vargas Llosa, who just got married for the third time, and he was very interested in immortality. He's in his 80-something, and now he's very interested. I am talking to him about what we are going to have in the next few years. And also, I had the privilege to do a TV program in Spanish in CNN with Donald Trump, talking about these issues in the future. Development is accelerating faster and faster and faster. The first country that doubled its income per capita in human history was the United Kingdom during the Industrial Revolution. And it took 58 years to double its income per capita for the first time in human history. Other countries followed, the USA, Japan, now China. China, every 7, 8, 9 years, it's doubling its income per capita. This is absolutely marvelous. We are truly living in the best time ever in human history. Until the 18th century, there was no economic growth. We lived in poverty, disease, sickness, and early death. Until the 18th century, the average lifespan throughout the world was not, life expectancy was not even 30 years. Then economic growth began, the Industrial Revolution in England, and then we moved to 100% GDP growth, gross domestic product. And in the 20th century, almost 400%. In this 21st century, humanity might grow 2,000 or 3,000%. We have seen nothing yet. The next 20 years will give us more technological changes than the last 2 millennia. In 2 decades, we will see more changes than in the last 2,000 years. However, there are groups that oppose these changes, like the Amish, who want to live in the 18th century, or some people who live like the Yanomami Indians in South America, where I grew up, that they live like they were living 3, 4, 5,000 years ago. And maybe even further back in time, there were people who didn't want wheels, the anti-wheels people. In fact, in England, where the Industrial Revolution began, there was a group called the Luddites who did not want technology, who did not want the machines, and they began destroying the machines because they said that the machine would take away their jobs. Fortunately, the Luddites did not win. The machines won. And that is why we live in this advanced world. And again, we have seen nothing yet of what there is going to come. 10 years ago, I was one of the founding faculty of Singularity University with Ray Kurzweil, who spoke here yesterday. And I was there for several years talking about these exponential technologies that will lead us towards the singularity that we expect to happen in the year 2045. If you look at one of the consequences of the singularity is the year man becomes immortal. And for the ladies here, don't worry, women will become immortal too. All of us will become immortal, and we will rejuvenate ourselves. I plan to be alive in 2045, and I plan to be younger than today. Younger than today. The idea of the technological singularity has been talked about for Ray Kurzweil, who is also from my alma mater, from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he's just finishing now his new book that will be launched next summer, which is The Singularity is Nearer. And we talk consistently about those two numbers, 2029, when we will pass the Alan Turing test, and 2045, when we will reach, at the very latest, the technological singularity, including immortality, physical immortality. If you look at how technology has changed, this was 40 years ago, the IBM punch cards, or the first floppy disk 30 years ago. And technology is changing exponentially. Also in biotechnology, that is the cost of sequencing the human genome. Today, in 2018, it is only $800, the complete sequence of the genome. And this will go down to $10 and 1 minute of time. This is incredibly exponential. However, we do not understand the nature of exponential change because we think linearly. But technology is changing exponentially faster, smaller, cheaper, better. Very, very, very fast. And if we think about exponential change versus linear change, if I walk linearly and I give 30 steps, after 30 steps I have walked 30 meters. But if I double 30 times, I will have walked over 1 billion meters and gone around planet Earth 26 times. This is truly exponential. And now we are going to see the future in a different way. We have to fly, we have to open our eyes. 10 years ago, I went to visit Sir Arthur C. Clarke before he died. And he is very famous for the 3 laws of the future, besides Space Odyssey 2001 and a lot of science fiction. And he said, first law of the future, when a famous scientist says that something is possible, he's probably right. But when he says it is impossible, he's probably wrong. Second law, the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture past those limits into the impossible. And the third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So we are going to talk about magic because the changes are incredible. 3 decades ago, personal computers were just beginning. When I arrived at MIT, there were no personal computers. 20 years ago, mobile phones were growing. 10 years ago, companies like Google going internationally very efficiently. What we will see in the next 20, 30 years, we will see magic. We will cure aging. Many of us consider aging as a disease, but a curable disease that we are going to cure in 2 decades, 3 decades. The Methuselah Foundation has this prize and many other initiatives to incentivize research on this. And what has been done is incredible. In the last 10 years, we have almost doubled the life of mice, multiplied by 4 the life of flies. We have multiplied by 10 the life of some worms. And this is just beginning, because we even know today that cancer cells are immortal. There are immortal cells, like cancer cells are biologically immortal. There are also some organisms and other good cells, not only cancer is immortal, germinal cells are also biologically immortal. And in small organisms like hydras, some medusas, that are also biologically immortal. So when people tell me immortality is impossible, I say, how is it impossible? It already exists. There are immortal life forms. There are immortal cells. And now Silicon Valley is opening their eyes to this. And Google created Calico to solve a technical problem called death. Death is a technical issue that we will solve. Also, Microsoft announced that they will solve cancer in 10 years. Cancer is a technical issue that we can solve. And as we know, Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Priscilla Chan, who is a medical doctor who studied biology at Harvard, they are donating their fortune to cure all diseases. And they said that their daughter will not die of anything. She will not die. She will become immortal. We will cure all diseases, including aging. There is a growing ecosystem, incredible ecosystem of billions of dollars on these technologies, because this will indeed be the largest industry of the planet in the next few years. So I recommend that you, if you want to know about this, and you will have enough time to learn Spanish, to read my book in Spanish. So plan A is not to die. I don't want anyone here to die. But if you die, we have plan B. Plan B is cryopreservation. This was also impossible half a century ago, but it began, and now there are actually millions of children that have been cryonically suspended as embryos, or eggs, or sperm, through in vitro fertilization. So we know it works, and actually I have visited all the centers of cryopreservation, like Alcor, nearby in Arizona, and I was in charge of the first cryopreservation in continental Spain. A friend of mine who died 2 years ago, and he was in charge of that. But again, this is plan B. I hope all of you, like me, are for plan A, which is immortality. As Woody Allen said, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying. So we are here not to die because life is beautiful, precious, and we have to keep alive. 4 technologies are being studied that will give us immortality. Nano and bio are the hardware of life. And in 20 years, plus or minus 10, we will reach the immortality of the hardware. And also, info and cogno below are the software of life. And we are also going to reach the immortality of the software in 20 years, plus or minus 10. We live in incredible times to reach immortality not once, but twice, through the hardware and through the software. So how complex is our hardware? Today we know that the human genome has basically 3 gigabytes of data. And we will reach this complexity to create human genomes in 20 years that we have done with bacteria and viruses in the past. We are going to reach this complexity because we are just walking information. Our genome is information, and then the software which goes through the brain, the processing of the brain, the most complex structure in the universe today. And it has evolved. Brains have evolved and are very complex like our own brain. Now we talk about creating a 4th part of the brain, which is the exocortex, a new exocortex that will connect our normal, typical brain to the cloud and will give us super intelligence. Ray Kurzweil talks about this in his book, How to Create a Mind. And I had the pleasure to have helped in the translation into Spanish and to have written the prologue of the book in Spanish. So I recommend it in Spanish, not in English. But you will have time to learn Spanish. Don't worry. Don't worry. All of this is called transhumanism, and how science and technology will improve the human condition. But carefully, carefully. We don't want to finish like that, okay? In the next few years, we are going to cure all diseases. There will be no paraplegic people, probably in less than 5 years, through the research in stem cells. There will be no horrible diseases like this. There will be no Parkinson's. There will be no Alzheimer's. And at the latest, in 30 years, there will be no aging. Death will be optional. But everything has yin and yang. This is very complex, so we have to meditate. We have to think about the future and illuminate the planet and think there are dark parts, but also illuminated parts. Where do we want to go? To North Korea or to South Korea? To the future or to the past? So we have to meditate and we have to take action. We have to take action, and here I want to make a public announcement. I am starting a party in Spain to take immortality into the European Parliament in Brussels, called Plus Ultra. Plus Ultra is the name of Spain, the land of far beyond. And so my party is called Vita Plus Ultra. So we are going to change the world, and we want the help of people in the USA, people all over Europe. So vote for life. Thank you very much.
Super.
¡Viva la revolución!
So if you are a citizen of the EU, would you vote for José Cordeiro to join the Parliament? And maybe others in this room too are going to get involved in that public life and to transform the public mood in such an exciting and visionary way as José Cordeiro.